What is up, guys, and welcome to Game Week 25 of Fantasy Football. Not as if I'm the one that actually starts the game week or in any way controls. That sounded like I was Fantasy Football itself. But welcome to this video that I have no title for at the moment. I mean, it will have a title when it's uploaded onto YouTube. But if you do want to see this as a weekly thing, I will usually get these videos out a bit earlier before the deadline, because if I don't, then everything that I say in here, not that anyone would listen to me, and I would advise not listening to me because I'm incredibly wrong usually on fantasy football, is all repugnant because you can't do anything because it's the game week deadline's already gone, basically. But nonetheless, here I am. So if you do want to see more of this, a bit more of a trial run. I mean, I'm recording this on Skype for Christ's sake because I can't find a way to record my screen on Mac for free, and I'll be damned if I'm paying money to record a screen. So here we are, basically. So I apologise. I'll try and get better if I do make this more consistently. I don't know what's open here. Let's close all these. This is me trying to find things to I'm trying to make sure I don't close the thing. There I was trying to look for a title. Couldn't come up with one. So who knows what will be. But let's have a look at Kings of Game Week. We won't gloss over this too long because we already know. But it was a big game week. And this one, Gundogan, massive, really. Let's zoom in here. How do I zoom in? I'm a bit of a boomer when it comes to technology. I don't really know what I'm doing. But yeah, Gundogan was a big one. And it was a case of really, a lot of people had 100-point hauls this week. And it was a big case of whether or not, did you have Gundogan and did you captain him? If you did captain Gundogan, I don't know why I say he's one of those football players. I say his name about 3 different ways. So I apologise in advance. But let's have a look at my team. It was, like I said, one of those weeks where the average was quite high. It was a double game week, obviously, of course, as well. And I got 96, although I took a punt and I did transfer out. Well, I made 5 transfers, basically. So minus 16 points. So you're looking at that and you're actually looking at an 80-point game week, which was disappointing. I needed... for that really to, well, I say I need the transfers paid off. I mean, if you look at the transfers from memory, I bought Loughton in for Mitchell. I mean, that was a fantastic plus 13 or something ridiculous. I bought Cancelo in for, it's very difficult to tell. Let's just have a look. Game week 23. Apologies for the quick going back and forth. With Justin obviously out injured all the season, so we brought him in for Loughton and Cancelo. We also took out Mitchell, so they were good transfers. So nothing on that front cost me. Foden came in. Sigurdsson was a transfer. I brought him in for Maddison. It just didn't pay off. I thought the double game week was going to work, but it just didn't. Foden I made captain, which was my sort of punt really. I brought him in and also made him captain. The transfer itself was successful because who he replaced, he did better than. But the issue was the fact that I didn't bring in Gundogan. And the big call last week was basically, do you bring in Foden or do you bring in Gundogan? I brought in Foden and it backfired slightly. I mean, if I'd have had Gundogan in that position, I would have had another, 7, I don't know how many points he got now, 16 points, I can't count, which would have put me up to 112. You take that off. So basically, I would have had 96 points as my actual score, which would have been green arrows. But instead, I go out of the top 100k, as you can see here. So I'm now down to 118,000, which is kind of slightly annoying. But it is what it is. At the end of the day, you win some, you lose some. I'm annoyed that I'm at the top 100k, but it could have been a lot worse. So it didn't really pay off a lot of the risks that I took last week. Let's have a look how I've been doing. I mean, I was on a decent sort of up and coming run here, as you can see. I got myself into the top 100k last week for the first time in the whole entire fantasy this year. I had a terrible start, but I've really started to turn things around here. Not around game week 17 is when I started to sort of improve a little bit. I had a couple of poor game weeks there, but I'm looking at now. This is a week I've got to do better in. I've already played most of me bloody free chips things. I've only got the bench boost left, but let's go on to this week's team. Let's not waste any more time on last week because that's boring. So here's my team at the moment. I've made 1 transfer so far, and it's Raphinha. He comes in for Sigurdsson. The Sigurdsson experiment didn't work. Now, there's a few big calls here for me. I'm looking. I've got Sanchez and I've got Martinez. I'm thinking to myself, Sanchez, Martinez. It's difficult because I don't think you should bench Martinez. A lot of people bench Martinez this season. It's backfired, but I just look at those points that he's brought in recent weeks. It's ridiculous. 3 clean sheets in his last 4, and he's had points for saves as well. So At 12 points. I mean, he beat Nick Pope last week. The bit massive Pope sort of thing that people they brought in Pope. They benched Martinez. It didn't really work. It is a difficult one because I am getting ready. Fuck off, Uber. I'm getting ready for playing a bench boost at some sort of game week in the near future because all I've got, as you can see, a 15 that will start. You know, there's not one player there that I don't think will play a minute. I mean, pep them in rotation is a difficult one, and this is basically the fundamental issues I've got. I've got Martinez or Sanchez. I don't know what to do. I've gone with Sanchez, and I'll tell you why I've gone with Sanchez. I think he's a great pickup if you haven't got him. He's 4.5 million goalkeeper, and look at those and he's been on my bench the whole time. You know, 7, 6, 8, 7, 5, and 6. They're very good at getting clean sheets at the moment, and I just feel he does have the potential to do it. And I feel like Leicester has surely got a score against Villa, and I'm taking the punt there. I mean, it's probably not going to pay off. The other big issue I've got is I've got 3 Man City players against Arsenal, and I know Stones will start because he didn't start the last game, so I'm quite confident he'll start against Arsenal. Cancelo, though, I just feel like he might be in line for maybe a bit of rotation. He's played the last 3. But then Foden as well. Part of me thinks now, especially with Kevin De Bruyne back, and if Gundogan's fit, will he now be rotated? Although he did score in the last game, so I really don't know what to do. Essentially, because I kind of don't like the idea of dropping a Man City player at the moment in the form they're in. But I dropped Cresswell last week and he got 12 points. So I don't really want to drop Cresswell. Rudiger's doing decent with Chelsea at the moment. He seems to be getting clean sheets. Loughton scored last week. He's got West Brom. So I'm in a bit of a dilemma here. I don't really know who to drop. This is the big one. You know, I feel like I've got to drop one of these. And it's just a case of whether I drop Foden or whether I drop Cancelo. Usually I wouldn't go with a back 5, but it just feels like defence this year might be there's a lot of points in defence. I've decided to go with Raphinha and Bamford. Another big question for this week, I think, obviously, is the captaincy of Raphinha and Bamford. You know, which one do you go for? I'm going to go for Bamford. The reason I'm going to go for Bamford is I took a risk last week with Foden and it didn't pay off, and it put me down the rankings, took me out of the top 100k. I don't feel it's worth the risk. I feel he's got such a massive ownership. I think like he will be the most popular captain, will Patrick Bamford. So Raphinha is the differential captain in the sense that a lot of people will have him, but I think more people will captain Bamford than they do Raphinha. So if you're really looking at taking a risk and risking going down in the rankings, but also risking that you could go a lot higher, I would say Raphinha. But if you want to play it safe, it's not really safe, but if you want to play it safe-ish, I would go for Bamford. I mean, there is possible value in Fernandes, although he's been playing loads at the moment as captain. Again, possible value in Salah. He always seems to score goals. Kane's very, very good at scoring against West Ham, but that is away. And Man City players, it's difficult. Let's have a look then at the transfers, because obviously I realise you're not all going to have the team that I do. And I'll just have a look at some players that I think would possibly be good to get in, or players that I think could do really well this week. Obviously, let's have a look at the fixtures. You've got Leeds with the double game week. The big question with Leeds is do you pick Raphinha or do you pick what's his name, Jack Harrison? Got there in the fucking end. You know, Jack Harrison is about similar value. I think he's 0.1 lower, or he's 0.1 higher even. Has got more points this season, but Raphinha in a lot better form. Not say a lot better form. He's just in a really informed player at the moment. So they're the ones for me that are really difficult to pick from. The other one that leads that a lot of people are talking about, which I'm staying away from, is Dallas. Now, a lot of people have him. Got -1 last time. He's very hit and miss, is Dallas. I mean, I think over the course of 2 game weeks, if Leeds get a clean sheet, he should do all right. But there is talk about him possibly not playing in midfield and maybe going back to the left-back position with somebody returning for Leeds recently. So there's difficult calls pretty much everywhere you look. The other difficult thing here, which I think is more difficult due to the form that the team's in, but it's the fact that Southampton here, they've got 2 game weeks. They've got 2 games, this week. They've got Southampton, Chelsea, obviously, and then they're facing Leeds. 1 home, 1 away. You would want them to be the other way round on paper. You'd probably want, but I guess home and away doesn't really make much difference this year, or as much on fantasy. The Chelsea game. I mean, if you're looking at Southampton, the thing for me is the reason I've stayed clear of them is because I'd have to take a -4 hit. The goalkeepers are questionable at the moment. You don't really know which one's starting. Defensively, Southampton have been awful at the moment, and Walker-Peters isn't there. Ward-Prowse, obviously a really, really good option for Southampton usually. But there is talk about him. I've heard him possibly someone talking about him playing right back in place of Walker-Peters. I don't know how true that is, but if that's the case, you lose all the potential in getting points with him. And then other than that in the midfield, I'm not really looking at anyone as particularly promising. I mean, you could look at Armstrong, very big differential. I think he's done decent in recent weeks. He hasn't really scored a goal last week and didn't even play against Newcastle. So, it's difficult. A lot of people talking about Minamina. I think that's how you say his name. Probably not. But obviously got a goal against Newcastle, played against Wolves, didn't do much against Wolves. I'm not sure about him. I think it's a big risk. I feel like if you want to take that risk, you can. I just feel like it's just something that probably won't pay off. Che Adams, this is why Southampton's so difficult. He's been iffy recently. Hasn't scored. Look at that. Hasn't scored for since game week 12. He's only had an attacking return once since game week 12, and he hasn't even started. He's only started 2 of the last 4 games. So again, he is not somebody I'd be looking at. Danny Ings is the one person I would possibly be tempted for if it wasn't for the fact that I was going with Harry Kane and that brought Harry Kane in. But again, you look at him, he's only scored once in the last since game week 17 or since game week 19. Obviously, didn't have a game then. But I just don't see real. I mean, it's difficult because if you got to go against Chelsea, you would say, yeah, he's on for a really good game week, but he's 8.5 in the value. In theory, I probably think I do have 1 point. No, I don't. Do I? No, I don't have enough to take Watkins out, so I wouldn't even be able to do it financially anyway. But I just don't feel like he's an option for me at the moment. I think Southampton playing diet. It's one of those things that could pay off. The only person I'd even be having a sniff at in this side would be Ings. Everybody else I wouldn't even hasten to look at. So. That's my thoughts on Southampton on the double game week. If you are looking at getting a Southampton player in, I think Ings is pretty much the only option. I wouldn't even bother with the Southampton defence at the moment. I just can't see them keeping a clean sheet in either of the games against Leeds or Chelsea. I just can't see it. Chelsea, an interesting team, obviously. We're in a lot better form recently. This year on fantasy, not necessarily been the easiest side to really pick a player from. Mendy did have very good value. He was somebody I would suggest usually to get in on fantasy. If a solid Chelsea option. He's had 11 clean sheets, I think, in is it 11 clean sheets or is it 10 clean sheets in 19 games or something ridiculous. But then he went and throwed a curveball in, did Tuchel last week by playing Kepa Arrizabalaga. Although, as I to believe, that's just a one-off. I don't necessarily think that will happen consistently. But again, I think you have to just stay away for a couple of weeks from that just to see what happens. Rudiger, I think he's good value for the Chelsea team at the moment. He's playing under Tuchel. He's the lowest price-wise of all the defenders at 4.6. That will go up because people will start to buy him. He's not really a goal threat. I mean, I can't remember the last time Rudiger scored a goal. Did he? If we look at his previous seasons, 2 goals, 1 goal, 2 goals. He hasn't scored yet this season. He probably owed a goal, you would say. I do feel like he could get a goal in the next few game weeks. That's why I'm kind of keeping him in. He's a decent clean sheet option as well. Although you look at my defence here, and you can see I've got Loughton, who is Burnley, obviously. I've got Rudiger. I didn't have a Burnley defender for ages. Brighton, though, I know I'm playing that goalkeeper, but usually I don't play the goalkeeper. I am thinking long term, dropping one of those City defenders and bringing in a Brighton defender, because Brighton at the moment, defensively, there's a lot of value in their defenders. There's absolutely no doubt about that. If you move into the midfield, Mount is a decent little tidy option. Jorginho is a very cheap option if you just want somebody on the bench who's going to get you a couple of points here and there, but also does take penalties. So it is, again, always a potential for him to get you a decent haul, but most of the time he'd be on the bench. So especially this season, I think it's good to have a strong bench and to rotate a little bit. Hudson-Odoi, 5.7, obviously playing under Tuchel, but does sometimes play right wing back, although it doesn't seem to affect his attacking returns. A possible option, but nothing really there at Chelsea that's really screaming out at me. Werner's the one that I think to myself, he's certainly an interesting option. Obviously, look at those returns since Tuchel's come in. Obviously, didn't play against Wolves. Played the full game against Burnley, only got 2 points. But of the 4 games that he's played under Tuchel, he has scored 16, 21, 23 points in 4 games. So it's about an average of I can't do maths. Oh, I'm so bad at maths now. I used to be very good. It's just under, I think, about 5.7 a game, which is very, very good. And if you look at the Newcastle one there, it could have been a lot better. It could have been another 10-point haul, because you would argue he got the assist. I mean, it's debatable, but could have easily got assist on another day. And if that would have been the case, you'd be looking at Werner now as one of the most informed players on FPL, and he is one of the most informed players in fantasy football at the moment. Let's have a look at that though while we're talking about form. Goalkeeper wise, as you can see, they're the 3 in form. I've got 2 of them, and they're doing really well for me. I'm not looking at changing them. I mean, my strongest advice, if you are looking, I would honestly look at getting in Sanchez and Martinez. I know a lot of people had Martinez and McCarthy. I would be looking at getting this Sanchez, and he's playing now. Matt Ryan's obviously gone, and he's playing regularly, and he seems to be getting clean sheets most weeks for them. Like I say, Mendy's another option. I mean, obviously, there's some double game weeks possibly coming up. A lot of people have picked the Leeds keeper, but I just wouldn't risk it with him. But goalkeeper-wise, I mean, Martinez, I just don't think you can really look further than Martinez this season, to be honest with you. Here we are, Dunk. Azpilicueta, another option. But again, he's somebody who is playing. We'll get an assist here and there. Again, another possible option for Chelsea. I mean, the Chelsea defenders now seem to be becoming a bit more of an option, where they weren't for most of the season. Dunk is somebody I really want to get in, or a Brighton defender of some description, maybe even White. But I'm going to be looking long term. I mean, Luke Shaw's somebody who's playing really, really well for Man United at the moment. You do feel like he's going to continue to do well for them. Although fixtures for Man United at the moment are a bit shocking. So you've got to kind of look around. I'm not really looking too far ahead because I don't know what's happening with the double game weeks and the fixtures as of yet. I know Tottenham should have games to play. Villa have games to play. So, this guy, Matt Target, is certainly somebody I'm looking to get in. I need to get another Villa player in if they are going to have that double game week. But I've already got 2. So I'm quite confident. It will be a case of, for me, when Villa have that double game week, whether I bring in Target or whether I decide to bring in Jack Grealish. For me, they're the ones you should be looking at. Brighton and Chelsea are the 2 defences I'd be looking at investing in at the moment because they just seem to be the defences that are starting to come into form. And yeah, I think getting on them as quickly as possible is probably a good thing. Again, this was the one area where I'm very, very tempted to take Foden out and to put like an Ashley Barnes in or something like that. But then I just don't know whether it's worth the -4 hit. I think I'm just going to stick with things this week rather than taking a hit. But, you look at form here. Gundogan is just tearing things up. Raphinha, Barnes, who I haven't had in all season. I did have Maddison in. Then I took him out for Sigurdsson. It didn't work. He's already been replaced by Raphinha. That's the one thing I look at my team and I think I haven't got a Leicester player in, and I want a Leicester player in because they have got some really, really tidy fixtures coming up. But I'm going to let it go this week with Leicester, and then I'm going to reassess next week and look at bringing a Leicester player in. But you look at form here for the players. Neves is somebody that has been on my radar the last couple of weeks because he started to score some goals again. But you just don't know with Neves how consistently he's going to do it for. Wolves are just very iffy at the moment. So again, I need more confidence that they're going to get themselves back on form. Aubameyang's one people are looking at. But for me, just not worth it. 11.3 million. It's just too many big hitters this week that, in general at the moment in fantasy, that you can't really risk him. Bukayo Saka is so much better option with value for me at least. And obviously we've got the Kevin De Bruyne coming back, but that I think honestly that's probably how I'm going to leave the team. There'll be my sort of looks for the future. Obviously next week I will probably look into a bit more depth as to what I think maybe I should do heading into next week and transfers and stuff like that. But this week, I have attacked it, I guess. I brought in a Leeds player. I mean, I could look at bringing another one in. I'm tempted to bring a Southampton player in, but I honestly think I'll probably keep this relatively similar. Because the thing is, I don't know who I'd bring in for a Southampton thing. The thing is that if I was to bring Ings in, he'd be the only one I would. And I'd have to take Watkins out, and I'd also have to take out probably a midfielder. And I just don't think it's worth it, to be honest with you. I just feel it's probably best to avoid Southampton this game week. So this looks like the team that I'll be starting with. I will be debating with Foden and Cancelo and the likes for probably right up until the deadline. But for now, this is the team. Sanchez in goal against Crystal Palace. Stones, Loughton, Creswell, Rudiger, Raphinha, Fernandes, Salah, Foden, Kane, and up front, and my captain, Patty Bamford. Hopefully he can come in with the win. So I need to be doing decently. I mean, looking at this to get back into the top 100, it's hard to say really. I just don't know. I mean, it doesn't feel like that much of a different team. It feels like a relatively solid team. I'm looking at somebody like Rudiger and Sanchez. If Martinez gets a bad week, and Rudiger and Sanchez come through, that would be good. The big thing's going to be is if I'm going to call this right, if I'm going to the Foden Cancelo thing's worrying me slightly. Beyond that, I've just got to hope that Raphinha and Bamford return. Bamford returns more than Raphinha because obviously he's my captain. I can't see myself moving that much. I feel like I've played quite safe this week. I could have really attacked it. I haven't done. I played relatively safe. I've made a few interesting calls, but I played relatively safe. I can't see myself moving too much. If a few, like I said, the Rudiger and Sanchez stuff comes off, and if I get the bench right, I don't have too many points on the bench. I think I probably could move up, maybe sneak back into the top 100k. If not, I think I'll probably stay similar to where I am. Dare I say it, I can't see myself dropping massively because I haven't taken a huge punt. If I'd put Raphinha as captain, I think the whole story would be different. But please do let me know your teams down in the comment section below for this week in fantasy. To run through the fixtures, it's Wolves versus Leeds on Friday today at 8 o'clock for me. Going to be goals in that game. I reckon 2-2. I can see that being a draw. Southampton, Chelsea. As much as I'd love Rudiger to get a clean sheet, I just got a feeling it's going to be 2-1. And if that one goal is from Danny Ings or he has an involvement, if you've taken Danny Ings in, then your prospects of a decent week do certainly go up. I'm just going to avoid Southampton. I've just got a sneaky feeling. Burnley, West Brom, I can see that being a 2-0 win for Burnley, hopefully a clean sheet. Liverpool versus Everton. It's difficult at the moment because both sides are in all sorts of weird form. Like 1 minute, I mean, Everton especially, 1 minute they're scoring goals, the next minute they can't score a goal. They certainly can't seem to defend at the moment, but injuries and other stuff happening there. I think Liverpool will probably win that game 2-0. Fulham versus Sheffield United. I'm expecting a 1-0 Fulham win, but again, it could be very, very tight. West Ham Spurs, interesting game. I could see Mourinho doing that though. 2-1 for me to Spurs. Villa Leicester. I can see that one being. I can actually see Villa winning that one 2-1. Actually, I'm going to go a bit of a curveball, but I don't think it'll be a clean sheet for Martinez, which will be disappointing for a lot of fantasy football owners. But for me, if I do end up not bottling it and not playing him, would be a good one. Arsenal versus Man City. I can see Man City winning that 3-0. I maybe that's a bit over the top, but I've said it now, haven't I? Man United versus Newcastle, for me, that one probably. I know Man United do struggle against the lesser sides in the Premier League this season. Seems to be an issue for them, but I could see them winning that one 2-1. Decent win. Hopefully Fernandes will do something. Brighton versus Crystal Palace. A difficult one. One that you really feel Brighton need to win, one they should win. It's obviously a derby. I'm going to go for 1-0 Brighton. And I'm going to hope that Sanchez, the goalkeeper, somehow scores. Imagine. Leeds versus Southampton on the final one. I think that would be a 2-0 Leeds victory. And that's, again, why I'm just avoiding Southampton, because they're just not that confident that there's too many goals in them. And there's certainly... I'd be very surprised if they kept a clean sheet over the course of the two games, but I probably jinxed it. But leave your teams down in the comment section below. Leave your thoughts. How many points are you hoping to get this week? Who have you captained? What are the risks that you've done? Have you made transfers? Are you going for Southampton players? That seems to be the big question. There's two big things this week for me, and it's Raphinha or Bamford as captain. I mean, you could argue there's a Raphinha Jack Harrison argument, but I would say Raphinha is a much better option. I mean, it could be completely wrong. Yeah, I mean, I guess you could put them both in, but that's the big one. Bamford or Raphinha as captain. And then the other question is, do you put Southampton players in or do you avoid them? Fulham, on paper last week, a lot of people avoided them. I avoided them for the double game week, and they had in the Kings of the Game Week 3 players. So sometimes it doesn't go the way you think it would on paper. But with Southampton, they've lost 6 in a row. I just can't see it. But we'll have to wait and see. I'll be back for a review of this week and a preview to the following week after this game week, which will be on maybe Wednesday. When is the next set of games? Saturday. Yeah, we'll look at Wednesday, Thursday. Perhaps hopefully they'll release the new fixtures as well, and we might even have double game weeks to play with next week. But looking ahead to the fixtures next weekend, there's some humdingers in there. Obviously, looking at that one as probably the game of the week. Chelsea versus Man United, going to be an interesting one, probably 0-0. But there we are. I've got 1.8 in my thing. So here I am, 118k in the world. Can I get myself back into the top 100 this week? I'm not so sure. But I will see you at some point very, very soon for another episode. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.